Hello, welcome to part 2. So I'm working with a slightly different setup than in the last episode of this. I just took the other mixer out of the chain. I'm just going to work with a single mixer once again, just to keep things simpler in terms of describing what I'm doing, because nothing I'm doing here will need two mixers. So what I'm going to focus on this time is hue, saturation, and lightness, aka brightness. Also, saturation is sometimes called chrominance in this terminology. So hue, saturation, brightness is a color space, is a different way of looking at how color works. So natively, this video mixer and the screen are working in the color space of RGB, where there's just three values for red, green, and blue, and these qualities of saturation, hue, and brightness are they are emergent qualities, emergent values from red, green, and blue. This is sort of how our eyes process light. It's not exactly. If you look at what your cones actually process, it's not like there's just like one thing that processes red, one thing that processes green, and one thing that processes blue. There's like an overlap. Yellow seems to be more like the green and the yellow receptor seems to be kind of like a larger hump, while like the red hump is a little bit bigger and the blue hump is another thing. I'll put like a link to like some of this information because I realize what I'm describing right now is an image I have seen that maybe you have not seen. This is not helpful. It is me describing a graph that I saw once. But yeah, so red, green, and blue are a really coarse approximation of how the actual physical like rods and cones in our eyes are processing color. There is actually separate sort of chrominance and luminance channels in our eyes, sort of like how there's a separate chrominance and luminance channel in an SD video signal, but I'm just going to ignore that for the moment and just leave that out there as like a fun fact to know exists. But on the other hand, we don't process, like we don't get this, like consciously get the RGB information and think about it. Okay, red is 21 and green is 50 and blue is 127. So if I add those together, then I'm going to get, something kind of like brownish purpley. We don't process it that way. Our brain takes the RGB information in and sort of gives us the actual like color spectrum, which we sort of have this, we have attributed the sort of psychovisual attributes of hue, saturation, and brightness. So a lot of people enjoy working in HSB space versus RGB space simply because it provides a more intuitive feeling way to deal with color. I certainly do. I've been doing it. I first sort of came across color spaces when I first started learning how to code visual graphics and resynthesize video in processing a long time ago. And once I immediately was just like, RGB, this does not make sense to me. Why would you ever want to program in this? And I looked into it and I saw, oh, HSB, let me try this. And it was just immediately just like, nope, this is it for me. I'm never going to work in RGB again if I have a choice. So how can you affect hue, saturation, and brightness on a video mixer? Most do not have any most mixers are not going to directly offer you this. Some mixers that do have color correction in them, color correction is not the same as like a straight up attenuation or anything. Color correction works a little bit differently. I don't want to go into the details. You usually see that when there's like a little like XYZ knob that you like, or XY knob that you move around. It's usually not a Z knob. It usually doesn't move up or down. It's just what was it? Yamaha synthesizers called a vector control or something, when they thought that they had like imagined that vector synthesis was its own thing when it was just crossfading between samples. Digression there. So a lot of mixers, some mixers will offer 1 or 2 channel color correction, And this is like it's usually just sort of coarsely adding like one color or multiplying values of like the R and G to like sort of add like a filter effect. It does not, I don't know, it does not do the same thing as shifting hue. So if you want to play with HSB space in this realm, there is exactly one mixer I know of, the Sony FXE 120 video editing system it's called, which has individual channel hue, luminance, and chrominance, which is just another way of saying hue, saturation, and brightness, attenuation. Otherwise, there are like standalone FX units. They'll sometimes be called special effects, or they'll sometimes be called like color correctors or color somethings. I'll try to put a couple of links to that in this as well, just as examples. And you can get these standalone color processors that you can use. And if they usually have like a lot of handy-dandy knobs and like some form of like potentiometer that you can affect in real time to play with. But yeah, so let's just like play around with these knobs and play around with the feedback and see what happens. So I've got the luminance on this channel turned all the way down, and I'm just going to like dial it up a bit. You'll notice I'm getting these white blobs that have like little rainbow things on the end. What I can do is I'm sort of moving the camera around as this is happening, and I'm just going to like try to pull off a blob here in the middle and then just hold it. You know, as I hold it, it's doing some really nice hue shifting. Next, I'm going to go to the Chrominance channel, saturation, and dial that up. We'll see what happens. That actually seemed... So sometimes, when you max something out in a feedback loop, it'll just kill it. It'll like go to the... It'll go like too far, and it just won't be able to like handle anything else. That's something you need to watch out for in feedback loops with any sort of like hue, saturation, brightness, or RGB attenuation. So I'm turning everything back down, and we're not back at the same zone that we were when we started. We're trapped in this sort of like, there's just this amorphous blue blob over here moving. And I can't seem to really get it to do much. That wasn't how it started, was it? There wasn't a big blue blob on the screen. So let me just wiggle it around a bit. Oh, there we are. Now we're back. So what that big blue blob was doing was messing with the auto white balance on the camcorder I'm working on, and so it wasn't picking up anything off of the rim of the screen here, the little P and P that is like feeding back. Oh, that's pretty neat. Yeah. So something to watch out for when you're blowing stuff up, blowing up the signal values as you play with it, is that if you just go too high, it's just going to kill the signal. Let me turn luminance up a little bit again. Let me turn chrominance up a little bit. This is just a tiny dial. And now I'm going to mess with hue. You notice I'm turning it up. I turned hue all the way up and I just kind of blasted it. It's not able to deal with that anymore. But if you do... Let me get rid of this blue blob again. I could just turn on and off, like open and shut the iris. But I just kind of want to show that you can like... When you get it to like just the right spot, you get this hue cycling blob in the middle. And now I'm going to play around with adding and subtracting hue. So once again, I blasted up hue and nothing is happening. And I turned down hue and nothing is happening. It got stuck in a cycle. This is something feedback channels, feedback lines. Feedback lines sort of have a strong potential to like, once they reach like a sort of maxed out, blasted out area, they just can't get out of it unless you do like a sudden shock, like, boop, put my finger over everything. So yeah, I was trying to tout hue, saturation, and brightness as being like so much more useful for feedback, but it just seems to be killing my video feedback. It's not doing the intentional things that I want it to at all. Ooh, I want to hold on to this little blob in the middle here for a bit, though. Let's see if I can do it. Nope. Grab these blobs. So I want to grab a blob in the middle to play with, so I'm just going to dial up brightness a bunch, bring it over, zoom in a bit. But I want it to be on its own, so let me just kind of like bring it over, and there we go. So what I did was I was shifting the camera while I was dialing up the brightness. I just wanted to have this blob in the middle to play with. So I'm going to try, I've got luminance turned down all the way. We'll see what happens when I turn up the chrominance and the hue at the same time. Whoa. So this is like a throbbing oscillation. Part of this is the automatic white balance on my camcorder. So I've turned down the luminance on the signal. So the signal that's being fed in is having its luminance reduced, which means we're basically watching the cycle of the white balance. Oh, and I lost it. So this just goes to show that, one, you should definitely 100% practice everything you're going to do before you record a live video. And two, working with camera feedback and changing the values in the meanwhile is like sort of a trial and error thing. You find, like I said, the sweet spots are usually from like shifting things. See if I can keep this from drifting away. Over here. I'm just going to like change these values tiny bits. Come back over here. So this is me just sort of like changing tiny bits of the values. I mentioned earlier, this camera really likes purple. But when it can't have purple, it'll just go to this blue. I think this camera and the screen combination especially likes purple and blue zones. Yeah, so this is me just doing really tiny changes. I've got one hand on the knobs, another hand just guiding the camera back and forth. So you can get really awesome stuff out of this zone, but you have to be careful, and it's important to not get discouraged if if you just like go into like totally blast out a signal and it like doesn't do anything, because it's just a matter of like figuring out the right kind of light touch to play with in terms of where your zoom is, where everything's sitting, like all of the settings. But yeah, so that's hue, saturation, lightness on a camera channel. Now let me switch on over. Let's play with hue, saturation, and chrominance on an internal channel. So this is just an internal channel on the FXZ we turn everything down. So I've turned everything down and nothing happens. That should not be surprising. And then we dial everything into noon, which is, I think, pretty sure unity on this. So here's unity on everything, and we have, this is pretty much like, I don't know, like what you would expect from like a video mixer with like a larger degree of like digital signal processing, is there's not really much going on. It's just kind of holding it and freezing. There's a little bit of a pattern that emerged because I was turning this up and down. And you notice if I turn it up slower, a different pattern emerges. And as I turn it down, different of the colors fade out at different times. I'm just changing the brightness channel right now. Dialing it up, and here it is. Here's it all the way. For some reason it just stops right here. I don't know why. Every internal channel has a different thing. Yeah. So here's Chrominance dialed all the way down, and we slowly start to dial Chrominance up. Here we go. So Chrominance is at about 1 o'clock on the analog clock model of things right now. Let me turn hue back to noon. Hue is at basically noon. Chrominance is jacked up. You notice as we turn up the Chrominance, getting more and more, like, it's not changing the speed of anything really, but it is changing how much the stuff is getting filled in. Back here where Chrominance was at 1, Chrominance is a synonym for saturation in this. Sorry if I keep going back and forth, but color spaces, they're all different. There's another thing to note too, is that there is not a one-to-one agreed upon, everybody uses it, mapping from RGB to hue, saturation, and brightness. There are different kinds of hue, saturation, and brightness models that people use. If you just look up in terms of like numerical algorithms, there's a bunch of different ones. Lightness and brightness and value are 3 terms that get used somewhat interchangeably, but they do not always match up to the same thing. Sometimes brightness and lightness are inverted versions of each other, where like 0 is light and 1 is black, or 1 is light and 0 is black. So if I'm being inconsistent, it's because the terminology itself is also actually inconsistent, and the mapping is inconsistent, and it's not really a one-to-one map back and forth. There are things that I'm not going to go into the mathematics of this. This is not what this specific channel is about, but yeah. So here's me. I nailed down luminance just a bit so that white didn't take over. I'm gonna play. Got everything else kind of at like noon. Got Provenance at noon. Now I'm just gonna mess around with the hue. Let's turn on Provenance a bit. So as I turn up hue, and as I turn it down, the hue shifting changes speeds, which makes sense if you think about it for a second. And you slow it down right in the middle, you can see this is definitely like digital processing happening in there because of all the little like reaction diffusion lines, which are sort of similar to the lines that we were getting in the camera on the LCD screen. And notice I'm turning up brightness right now, and it's kind of making everything pastel. It's making this little brightness threshold thing sort of move over. So you kind of see, as I'm doing this, some things are individual. Like the brightness on this is probably just mapping directly to the luminance part of the analog signal. Here's me turning brightness all the way down, and see what happens to the screen overall as I change it. So there's like small detail differences that are happening in the feedback, but the overall shapes are staying the same. The signal, like the RGB signal, isn't getting highly modified by this as much as what I'm playing with. Here, let me turn up hue. Oh, whoa, that's going crazy bonkers acid zones right now. Let me turn it back down. And this is like not quite so crazy bonkers. This is like relaxing acid zones right now. And turn it down, -1. It moves in the other direction. So that's a neat thing that's happening here is, so as I can basically multiply by 1, or multiply by like, I think up to 2, or multiply by -2 essentially. That's making a directional shift. That's pretty rad. Now I have hue all the way down to -2, and I'm going to turn up and down the chrominance, and you can see what happens here. The Sony FXZ, this model I'm working with, one of the things it mentioned it was bragging about in its manual is that it works with frame synchronizers, not time-based correctors. And I'm wondering if this sort of clumpingness, if you notice how there's like a pattern, you can't see me over here in the P&P. There's this one pattern that sort of starts right here, another pattern that's like right here, and then this pattern of the purplish stuff over here. And I'm wondering if that is a side effect, because I don't really see that on other mixers, which I think say that they have time-based correctors. So I'm wondering if that is an effect of that. Something to think about. Another thing, if you know exactly what a frame synchronizer is and exactly what a time-based corrector is, and like can describe to me like the qualitative and quantitative differences, ideally in like mathematical formulas, I would love to understand that, because I keep asking people about this and it doesn't seem like anybody really knows. People keep telling me like opposite things. Yeah, that was about all I really wanted to cover on this, is to show how tricky it is to like mess around with like color correction and like value attenuation for camera feedback, and also how pretty awesome it is to do that on an internal line. So here's a neat setting. I've got brightness turned down a little bit negative. I've got hue at like -0.1, and chrominance is all the way up. So here's a funny thing. If I have chrominance at noon, and I turn luminance down, everything disappears. And my chrominance jacked up, and then I turn luminance down, there's still luminance happening. So something in the chrominance channel, however it's mapped to the analog signal, has to be affecting overall brightness. So I don't really personally have like a skill for like taking apart this sort of like digital analog hybrid circuitry DSP thing and like figuring out what goes on in it, but I do like to figure out what the signal has, like these sort of qualitative things from signal processing just by playing with it, because you can tell that chrominance on this has to be changing the brightness channel, because otherwise multiplying the brightness channel by like -2, there should be nothing coming up on the screen, but there is. Let's see what happens when I turn on the pixel trails on this. I haven't played with this. Oh, whoa. I haven't really like fully tested out this mixer yet. So there's a lot of things that I'm a little bit unsure about what they actually are doing. There's definitely some neat things with the wipes and stuff you can do. You can key in the camera feedback and see if this combo does anything. Kind of figured not. We just key the two channels into each other. Oh yeah, there's another really cool thing you can do with, what do you call it? When you have color correction, when you can do two channels of color correction, you can affect the different channels differently. So I'm not even going to wipe, I'm going to normal mix between them. So this is fading between the two channels. Huh. So he's doing, yeah, some psychedelic vomit stuff. also has the color correction wheel on it. So we pull up Push channel A and we start dialing around the color correction wheel. Oh, not really doing a lot. Yeah, there's a bit of a difference you can see in there. So there's some funny effects mixing things you can do on it. It's trapping the mosaic mix. That's pretty nifty. Trying something really crazy and trying to chroma key two internal channels together. I don't know if this is gonna work out that well. I need to turn down the hue shifting on both a lot. Okay, so here I found a pretty good way. I'm mixed directly between the two channels. So I'm sort of just fading between each one. I'm going to turn hue shifting. I'm going to try turning all the values in opposite directions on each, just to see if there's something really remarkable. Let's turn luminance all the way down on one. Yeah. Yeah, so that just pretty much seems to kill it. Oh well. So yeah, that is pretty much all I have to say for this episode. Thanks for checking it out, and I hope you have fun.